Hey yo, what's up everybody? I've already done a couple videos on Chapter 2, Act 7 of Wuthering Waves, and I covered quite a bit, but there's still some things left unmentioned. So in this video, we're going to try to cover all the important story beats in one place. Without further ado, let's get it. Act 7 starts off with us listening to an announcement from a green screen echo. It's an advertisement telling us about the next big thing. It says that if people are still excited about the Great Aegon, well, the qualifiers for the open tournament are underway. A chance to witness the rise of new legends. And Solace Restaurant is offering free drinks and live coverage of every match. This offer of free drinks is a bit too good for Abby to pass up, so we decided to go check it out. Over at Solace, we and Abby listen to updates on the latest matches while enjoying all kinds of tasty snacks and drinks. But suddenly, we get a call from the Black Shores. So we seek out a quieter place to have our conversation. And this is one of the shortest yet probably one of the most important parts of the story going forward, because a lot of loose ends of the story get tied up during the quest, but the relevance of this convo is likely to be impactful far beyond this quest into future acts. So what does happen during this phone call? We learn that Black Shores has been examining Cartathea. The Black Shores member we're speaking with tells us that they now have Cartathea's inspection report. When we ask if they figured out what happened to her, she responds, not yet. Since this case is unprecedented, they'll need more time to fully comprehend the info. However, they were able to confirm a few different things. After merging with the power of the Sentinel and the Thermodian, Cartathea now subconsciously absorbs nearby energy whenever she uses her forte. Last time, she fought in a Sonoro tainted by the Dark Tide, and that might be why she felt the Thermodian's pull growing stronger. This might be what the Fraxidus wanted. Cartathea pops in the call to say that she's doing fine, but the Black Shores official says that she should avoid using her forte for now. Based on the data we send back, the inverted tower might be the best place for her recovery, because while that Sonaro sphere contains Dark Tide energy, it's still connected to Imperator. And this is what should help stabilize Carti's energy. We learned that Carti sensed residual Leviathan energy during her examination. This power she sensed is the same as when we fought Mia. The exact location of this power source is unknown, but it seems to be coming somewhere south of Black Shores, deep underwater. The Black Shores members are still narrowing down the search, so we ask for rough coordinates. They notify a Black Shores contact in Septimont to arrange transport for us to help us get to that location. Before heading out to the arranged coordinates, we start thinking to ourselves, saying, energy similar to the Thermodian's power in
Mia's body. Does that mean Mia wasn't the only one?
Of course, we know that from Act 4 and Act 6 that Leviathan Thermodian attempted to create a resonator countless times, and Mia was just one such attempt. So what I believe this dialogue to be hinting at is the possibility that just like Cartathea, just like Mia, we might find ourselves coming face to face with another of the Thermodian's creations in the future. Anyways, after this, we head to the dock, where we're notified of the exact coordinates spoken about before. And there, we board a gondola to head to that destination. Rover says that they still don't know what the Fraxidus is planning, but whatever it is, definitely involves Renacita. So we head on out deeper into sea. We notice that the coordinates are closer to Raguna. Then suddenly we encounter a ship approaching us, only to find out it's Fenrico's ship. He greets us saying that if we're worried due to unanswered questions, he'll guide us through it. And then he invites us aboard his ship. Once aboard, we ask what brings him all the way here. And he says that he has the divinity's blessing and he's just following their words. But of course, the Sentinel is gone, at least as far as we know. Now, maybe some remnants of its existence still exist somewhere, but it's definitely not in the state that it was in before, the state that the Raguna populace believes it to be in. So that's pretty much how we respond to him, saying the divinity is gone. Fenrico says that that's blasphemy and that we must have been led astray by some non-believers. We tell him that we're not here to play games. So what's cracking? And Fenrico is like, how about we just join him and help him build his paradise while taking out our enemy the Fractidus at the same time. Then we deduce that he and the Fractidus must have had some kind of disagreement, that they can't agree on how to split the Ternodian's residual energy. Fenrico says that he serves their will and that it's the only true path. And then my God starts powering up on us, and Rover says, I can smell it, asking, whose blood have you spilled? We draw down on him, and Fenrico changes the subject, asking, why are we rejecting his collaboration? But we're like, nah, bruh, we trust what we see, and there's no need for us to ally with you. After that, Fenrico summons a giant wave, casting us into the sea. Under the water, rope-like hooks emerge from a red portal, gripping us and pulling us in. It's Fhrolova. As she pulls us from the depths of the sea, Rover places a sword to her neck, and she says,
Such leniency is not your style.
When asked why did she save us, Fhrolova says, you're welcome. She reveals that a soul in defiance of itself, aka Mia, the one created by the Ternodian, but at the same time the one who'd rather die than serve it, her Ternodian corrupted frequency crystallized into a brilliant gem. Fhrolova says this gem drifted here, but the faithful, aka Fenrico and his most devout followers, search for it to harness its power. By the way, Fhrolova is in a weakened state, and we, the rover, we don't even know where we are at this point or how to maneuver in this place. This place is full of the Order's zealots and obstacles we don't know how to cross, amongst other things. So, Fhrolova proposes a collaboration. And of course, given her history, we're super skeptical, but given that there's not really many other options, we accept her proposal. Throughout the quest, we learn that this place is called the Fabricatorium of the Deep. This area explains so much about Raguna and reshapes many of the things that we've come to learn so far. For example, we're told that the reason the echoes of Renacita are so friendly and they're able to aid in humanity's daily lives so much is because, unlike Huanglong, the echoes here were blessed by the Sentinel, and that it's essentially been this way for forever. However, in this quest, we find out that that's just not the case, man. Instead, we learn that these echoes were manufactured, and that if for whatever reason they need to be decommissioned, they're sent here to be recycled. This information comes as a shock to Rover because no one's mentioned anything like this ever before, like at all. And that's because this is a well-guarded secret, only known by a select few of the Order. So not too long after starting our journey through the Fabricatorium with Fhrolova, we learn that there's a place called the Lost Beyond. Fhrolova has hidden the gem in the Lost Beyond. So what is this Lost Beyond anyway? Well, it's essentially a sonarosphere created by Fhrolova. And in this sonarosphere, she houses over 1,000 frequencies. If you don't know about Frolova's past, well, her hometown was completely decimated hundreds of years ago by a giant meteor, crashing down directly on it. Many, if not all, of the frequencies she carries with her are those she captured of the people who died in this incident in her town. She was the sole survivor. And if you want to learn a little bit more about Fhrolova's past in detail, you can check out this video where I talk about it in more detail. But anyways, these frequencies are now all living in the Lost Beyond, and they all depend on Fhrolova's abilities to make sure the realm is stable and that they can just continue existing. The people here are empathetic to the strain this puts on Fhrolova, yet eagerly awaits the day she can fulfill her promise to them, which is to revive all of them back into the real world. That is Fhrolova's singular mission in life, and that is the driving force pretty much behind all of her actions. She really doesn't care about anything else. She doesn't care if people use her for her abilities or her combat prowess, as long as she can revive her people. That's why she joined the Fractidus, why she summons the Ternodian in Huanglong, and why she's collaborating with the Order of the Deep, attempting to harness the power of Leviathan Ternodian in Renacita. Speaking of the Order of the Deep, what was Fenrico planning to get out of this? Well, he wanted to use the Lost Beyond as a safe haven for the people of Raguna and fend off the Dark Tide, a place where they can go and escape from all the calamities of the Thenodian. Additionally, it's revealed that Fenrico is possessed by the Thenodian, and naturally the Thenodian wishes to be restored to full power. And of course, this idea of saving the people and putting them in a safe haven is just a way for the Thenodian to manipulate Fenrico to do its bidding. And any plan that will allow for these things to happen are right up the Thenodian's alley. By the way, when Fenrico is in his right mind, he only really desires to help the people of Ragusa. However, just as Cantarella told us in Act 4, the Thenodian's whisper slowly chips away at what people perceive to be real, eventually shaping them to do its bidding. Later on in the quest, we find notes and recordings that Fenrico left for himself because he realizes that for some odd reason, he's double-minded, in that he prepares action plans only to find that his plans are somehow later different from what he originally made. In this quest, we see some of the downsides of Rover's philosophy on life and how it affects other people. Through this collaborative journey through the Fabricatorium with Fhrolova, there's one specific battle where Fhrolova removes her bandage and overclocks, dropping all the enemies in an instant and pulling us into her lost beyond. Once inside, we see a recreation of Fhrolova's hometown. It turns out that Fhrolova is hundreds and hundreds of years old, maybe even thousands. So old that at this undefined point in the past, her hometown was already considered ancient. Against the wishes of the concert hall manager, Fhrolova performs an elegy, dressed in black, a somber ballad to mourn the loss of her hometown that this concert hall now stands on top of. There in the audience of this performance is none other than the Rover. In this situation with Rover, she talks about her hometown. As one essentially immortal being confides in another, she finally feels understood. Rover tells Fhrolova that her pain might be a seed for new hope, and Fhrolova's like, "What do you mean?" Rover says that if this world can't be changed, then maybe it's time for a different path, even if it's nothing like before. Basically, Rover says, listen, I changed myself. I started over in regards to my memories being lost. And Fhrolova is intrigued by this philosophy. She wants to connect with Rover and learn more from them, not just for herself, but she also wants to use this perspective to revive the people from her hometown. Because she's been consistently trying to revive the people in a multitude of different ways, this conversation winds down to Fhrolova saying she's going to continue to work on perfecting this piece, and she plans to make it even better. And Rover says that they'll be there to hear it whenever this piece is complete. Fhrolova asks if that's a promise, and Rover says yes. No matter where I am, I'll return. Every promise matters. Once I make one, I'll see it through, no matter the cost. But Rover, in fact, does not see it through. She performs at Tricktown, at Piero, at Minden, at Scob, and many, many other places, but Rover never shows up. And she eventually realizes that the person whom she'd saved VIP tickets for at every venue, the person whom she felt most like her, would never come, even after such a grand promise. Of course, we, the player, can put two and two together to understand that Rover once again erased his memories, not knowing that they and Fhrolova had ever even met. And this circumstance left Fhrolova feeling more and more alone, which would eventually lead her to accepting the Grand Architect's proposal. She doesn't care if they use her as long as she can achieve her goal. And we come to learn that the Grand Architect is a high-ranking member of the Fraxidus. Now, we still don't know the structure of the Fraxidus. It isn't really clear if he is the top banana, but it is clear that he's definitely a heavy hitter in this organization. After leaving Fhrolova's Lost Beyond, Rover and Fhrolova face off against Fenrico. Fhrolova attempts to snatch the gem, but she fails. After Fenrico starts summoning the Dark Tide monsters, it becomes clear to Rover that this guy ain't normal. He is the Harbinger of the Dark Tide in Ragusa, and he's possessed by the Thenodian. We eventually defeat him, but he attempts to use the gem to summon the Dark Tide. Then the lantern relic emits the Sentinel's power, stopping Fenrico, and allowing him to have some control over his mind and body once again. As he recovers, he prays to the Sentinel to protect the people of Renacita from the Paradise, aka the journeying paradise of the Dark Tide. And then he drops the gem. It rolls right in front of Rover and Fhrolova. After this, Rover and Fhrolova have a standoff where she basically tells him about himself. Rover criticizes her for her impractical goals, and she criticizes Rover for his faulty logic in deleting his memory and experiences.
The one you're waiting for may have long since forgotten you. Forgotten the promise they swore to keep. I waited for a long time. I won't wait anymore.
And all of this comes to a head where they finally squabble over the gem. Fhrolova freezes Rover and obtains the gem, only for Rover to break free and launch his sword at her. It stabs her in the chest, and she falls into the water, only for Cristofaro to teleport in and steal the gem. And after this fallout, we turn to find Fenrico on his knees. He tells us he can finally sense it. The fluctuations of the paradise are not in Raguna, but in Septimont. He says that he's counting on us to be able to solve this crisis here before turning into stone. Rover feels like this is something he should discuss with the Ephor of Septimont. And right after this situation, Carlotta calls and she has us meet with Zani. Apparently, the commotion under the sea caused a light earthquake in Raguna. We tell Zani about all the things we've uncovered in the Fabricatorium. During this conversation, we get a call from Black Shores. We tell Cardathea what happened, that the Thenodian's power we sensed came from Mia, that the power crystallized into a gem, and that possessed Fenrico wanted to open a rift for the Dark Tide to emerge and to return the gem to the Thenodian to restore its power. After this, we tell her that we're heading back to Septimont to follow the clues Fenrico left us. And that is pretty much the story of Act 7. I really enjoyed this act. It was so fun to play through, man. Definitely one of the best acts that, at least in my opinion, of the story. That is all I have for you guys today. Don't forget to like and share. And until next time, I'll catch you in the waves. Peace.